Hello everyone, on today's episode of the 1 Year Life Challenge, we want to talk about the ancient law of 10,000 things. Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about the ancient law, which is called the law of 10,000 things, something that's been so incredibly useful in my life as things become hectic and difficult and as we look for challenges and sometimes find people to blame. The law of 10,000 things really helps you understand where you sit in the world and how to really use these events usefully to propel you forward on your 1 Year Life Challenge. I always read ancient texts, not always, but I like to read ancient texts, and a lot of that ancient wisdom didn't involve Pepsi inserting product placement. It involved people spending 30, 40 years of their life in silent meditation, connecting with the universal unconscious to deliver a platform of information that is timeless. Unfortunately, in modern times, in order to find a vehicle to reach people, people need to, I guess the word is sell out, they need to commercialise, capitalise their systems. They need to find ways that they can entice people to buy more and more things. That situation, the 12-step process where you pay $1,000 for each step, and really in that framework, we've lost a lot of the beautiful information that was available for thousands of years. And I'd really recommend, and I have a recommended reading list that I can send you. I really recommend that you get back to Homer's Iliad, the Tao Te Ching, the sacred texts that have been around for so long that really just speak to your awareness, not speaking to any company or any boss or any hierarchy. So I'm going to begin with a quote on the subject of the law of 10,000 things, and that quote is, "Heaven and earth have no particular favour. They see 10,000 things as straw dogs. The sage have no particular interests. They see all people as straw dogs. Between heaven and earth, emptiness lies. Shapes alter incessantly, while the void lasts forever. The more it is bent, the more it will yield. Plenty words conceal the ultimate reality, and hold steadfast onto the hub." Lao Tzu. So what is Lao Tzu talking about there? He's talking about that we are all connected. There is simply one way, one thing, one process. We are a process. We're not a thing that is different to other things. We are a process. And it's sort of like baking a cake, is that while you're baking a cake, you might put the flour in and the water, and the cake is a process. And yes, you can sit there and look at the flour and the water, but until they become one, you cannot make the cake. Therefore, there is no cake without a process. And yes, we can get smart and say, well, here's the ingredient list, but the ingredient list is not a cake. You cannot eat the ingredient list on a piece of paper and taste like a cake. And this is really important to understand. So my personal story involved assigning blame. I was great at finding the individuals in my life that were causing trouble, causing problems, and saying, right, I can see that's a problem, I'm going to stay away from that bloke, or that person, if they wouldn't have done this, this wouldn't have happened. And then I would assign, the reasons why, and I'd get into these big, long, deep conversations in my own head about people who weren't aware I was having these conversations and assigning all these blames, and really just making myself feel down, making myself into a victim. And it wasn't until I heard a story from a Taoist master that really just revolutionised the way I saw things. And before he explained to me the law of 10,000 things, and before I read it in the sacred texts, it was explained to me like this. And I want you to move with me on this thought experiment. Einstein was big on thought experiments, and I want to do one with you now. I want you to imagine that you're on this raft, and it's a beautiful wooden raft that you've constructed, and you've just launched it from the side of a slowly flowing river. And you're flying through this beautiful river, and as it meanders and turns through this incredible pine forest, the sun shines down on your skin, and you're feeling peaceful and relaxed. As you start to slowly drift around the scenery, immediately a huge bump knocks you out of the raft, and you fall into the cold water, and you're shook up, and your face is full of, your eyes are full of water, and you're all wet, and your raft starts to cruise away. You look over to the side, and you immediately see 3 teenagers with scuba gear who are sitting by the raft. How do you feel? If you're anything like me, you feel angry. Why did those kids knock me out of the raft? Why did they do that thing? Why have they ruined my beautiful day? I was having such a great time. These kids, these kids have no manners. These kids are rat bags. These kids, what's going on here? That would be a normal reaction, I think. I think most people feel like that. But I want you to back up a little bit. We'll leave those feelings over here and we'll just keep them in a box real quick. I want you to back up real quick. I want you to get back onto the raft and just imagine that didn't happen. I want you to head down to the river and to fall out of the raft again. So you've fallen out of the raft again and you hit the water and you shook up and you're all wet and you look over and a log has hit your raft. And that log has caused a bump which has knocked you out of your raft. How do you feel now? If you're anything like me, you're not too stressed. You sort of realise that, this log's hit my raft, I need to try and recover, and there's no one to blame, it's just a log. So the upstream consequences of how you felt out of your boat are determining how you behave. But you don't know for certain exactly how you've got there. Who knows if those kids in the scuba gear hadn't sent that log at you to knock you out. And the law of 10,000 things speaks to this. You need to think about situations in their totality before you start assigning blame. And when you think about the law of 10,000 things and noticing how the world is so connected and such a small little thing can lead to such big results that people don't intend, you can start to remove anger and blame. Now, let's say it was the kids that fell out, that knocked you out of the raft. Let's say that down the stream they had got stuck in a in say a current, and they got caught in a current and they couldn't resurface, and they were struggling for oxygen. And as your raft went past, they noticed that that was their only way to be released, and they let themselves out, and therefore that's why it knocked you over. That will then change how you feel about the situation. And then if we go further and further, and let's say that it was malicious. If we go further and further down the stream, what led those kids to want to knock people out of rafts? What sort of life have they had? Have they been abused? Have they been challenged? Are they poor? Are they looking for identity and meaning? So really, it's not about you. It was never about knocking you out of the raft. It's the law of 10,000 things. 10,000 things have preceded everything that happens to you, and you must look at them in totality. You can't blame the flour for the cake not tasting that great. It's the totality of the ingredients, and you really can't pick these single things out and think you're a real smart person and go, I know exactly why these things are happening. You just don't know. The law of 10,000 things, the unfolding process of you and the universe together, is much more mysterious than that. So you don't need to pinpoint these things and make yourself angry. So the law of 10,000 things comes from Taoism, the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu, the great Chinese philosophy that ultimately, as it moved east, also merged with Buddhism, became Chinese Zen. And to really bring this law of 10,000 things into your life and not to react and get stressed out and freak out over every little thing, there's some key ways to do this. The number one key is to be present. When you're present and in the moment and not bringing the thoughts of why did this person do this, were they thinking about this, did they intend this, or what were their plans for the future to do this to me, become present and centered and look at the events, not worse than they are, not better than they are, but how they are, you lose the need to assign blame and to become angry. Number two, perspective. Think about the situations in your life, the breakups, the injuries, the job failures, and think about, one, how they felt at the time, and two, how they feel 5 years later. I think we all have experienced an incredible pain of a breakup, only 5 years later to look at the fact that relationship had to end for new beginnings. That relationship had to end or the pain would have continued. Perspective is key, and you can have perspective in the moment when you bring it to the moment. A lot of people say, if in a few years from now we'll laugh about this. Well, why wait a few years? If in a few years from now you laugh about this, laugh about it now, is what I always say to people when that quote comes up. Number three, have compassion. Understand that person who just cut you off on the street has the law of 10,000 things applied to them. What caused them to cut you off? Are they just so living obliviously to life they didn't even see you? Did they deliberately cut you off because they're stressed, they just had an argument with their husband and they really, are just frustrated and furious and really are taking out on the world? It's not about you. The law of 10,000 things allows you to be more compassionate and understand that people really are trying to do their best given the 10,000 things around them. Self-compassion is the next step. Once you understand that a lot of people are just acting on the law of 10,000 things, you can give yourself a break. Yes, you're going to stuff up. You know what? I get upset sometimes. Sometimes I get frustrated. Now, should I beat myself up and go, well, you're not allowed to get frustrated. You're doing a video series on the 1 year life challenge. No. I say, well, I'm going to have some compassion because obviously I've assigned a lot of different reasons to this frustration I have right now, and I just need to let go. And self-compassion allows you to let go. There's nothing worse than getting angry at yourself for being angry. And finally, we talked about samsaras in a previous video, but the ending of these repeating patterns. These things that come up in your life because of the 10,000 things, the story you tell yourself, can just end. You can just come from the moment and say, these events happened. Yes, they happened and they're gone. They came into the picture and now they're out of the picture. And when they start to continually come into the picture and they don't serve you, you can start to look at them from the law of 10,000 things and say, gee, the fact that I didn't get enough love from my mum as a child is really affecting the 10,000 things I do today. Therefore, I need to really observe this with awareness and allow it to dissolve. The law of 10,000 things is such an incredible insight. It's over 3,000 years, it's almost 3,000 years old now, but it is true today more than ever. Our lives, and it's funny, in the past they said it's the law of 10,000 things, I mean now it could be the law of 10 million things. We live such incredibly busy, difficult, challenging lives that are interrupted with mass media, screaming signs that say buy this, you're not good enough, save this, you're not good enough, wear this luxury brand so you can be better. We've got so much of that happening, so now it's almost the law of a million things. Cut yourself a break, cut other people a break, and understand that in perspective of all these crazy things going on in the world, we're going to get it wrong from time to time. But if we get it right more than we get it wrong, we'll continue to get it right more than we get it wrong, and eventually we'll get to a place with peace and happiness. And isn't that what it's all about? Life is meant to be happy. The universe did not spend 14.6 billion years after the Big Bang creating living matter with a prefrontal cortex to become conscious to give us a tough time. I guarantee you, it wasn't that way. We are searching for bliss, and the planets are searching for bliss, and they're evolving, and we're getting better as people. Understanding the law of 10,000 things will help you get there. I can't wait to see you tomorrow, but until then, goodbye.